We go into the divisional round. We had the wild card round. Tom Brady's out. Drew Brees is out. A lot of people, those are two favorites. Shocked they're both gone. We have 4 games. All the teams at home are off a bye. They're all favored, some by a lot. Kansas City over Houston, some by a lot. Baltimore over Tennessee, some by sort of a lot. San Francisco over Minnesota, some by not that much. Green Bay favored over Seattle. We know 4 favorites are not going to win. That's just... But here we go. So 8 teams left in the NFL. We're going to have our Super Bowl-meter, our Miami meter. Here we go, Joy.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the Super Bowl-O-meter for the Tennessee Titans?
1 to 10, I would say 3, and here's why. They are a 6 seed. 6 seeds are 5-19 since the NFL moved to a 12-team format, and they're 0 for the last 8. And I think when you come off a franchise high, and that was a big win in Music City, and not only did you win a playoff game, but you beat the dynasty, I don't think they'll be able to meet emotionally the kind of level they're going to need to beat Baltimore, who outside of Mark Ingram is really healthy. So I give them a 3 out of 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the Super Bowl-O-meter for the Houston Texans?
Similar range. I would only give it a 4. First of all, Kansas City's got a pass rush, and Deshaun Watson was sacked 7 times.
Unbelievable.
By the way, last quarterback to get sacked 7 times and win a playoff game was like Donovan McNabb. The other thing is this team's never won a divisional round game, and they've been clobbered. Tui, you know about this. They lose by an average of 2 touchdowns once they get to this level. Again, I don't think it's a great team. I think they have a playmaking quarterback and terrific wide receivers. They've got about 6 playmakers on both sides of the ball. They got about 6 guys that are difference makers. But come on. They're constantly, there's no way they're going to overcome a 16-point deficit, which they had against Buffalo. They're not going to overcome that kind of, and they start as poorly as any good team in the league. They were outgained this year.
Yeah, it's remarkable. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the Super Bowl-O-meter for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I'm going to put it up in the 9 category. First of all, they've won 6 straight. Their defense since Week 11 has been excellent. They now have, when you got Frank Clark, Chris Jones up front, Honey Badgers helped. This is a really good football team. They've got an excellent coach. They're not their running game, they're not a clock eater, but they're a big play offense. They've shown the ability to come from behind, play with a lead. They've been in several big games. There's not much I don't like. The other thing is 12 games this year, they had 2+ sacks. Only the Vikings did that. That means they can get after Lamar Jackson. They can get after high-end quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson. We think of Kansas City as an offensive show, but their defensive line over time this year has developed into a really good playmaking defensive front.
Yeah, it's been a lot better. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the Super Bowl-O-meter for the Baltimore Ravens?
I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but I'm going to give it a 10 because they're on fire. They're mostly healthy. They're at home. They're well coached. And I think if you took their roster, the only roster in the NFL with this many good players is, I think, the Minnesota Vikings. This team does it all. They're only allowing, since week 5, 15 points a game. So we're all caught up on the offense. The defense is fantastic. They got Marcus Peters, so they have a shutdown corner. You can put a Marcus Peters on a Tyreek Hill, an Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. You can put him on a D-Hop if it was Houston. You can put him on anybody in the league, which allows you to play a different level of defense. They have a pass rush, and obviously Lamar is developed into not only a game-breaking talent, but a very efficient quarterback. Always my knock on Cam. He wasn't efficient. Lamar's now an efficient quarterback. He doesn't turn it over. He can throw intermediate routes. He can beat you over the top. He can run with the football. He doesn't fumble. They're a 10 to me.
MVP. What's the scale for the Minnesota Vikings?
Don't love their offensive line, so I'd probably give them about a 6. It's a really healthy, respectful 6. Dalvin Cook, actually, as good as he is, and this tells you a little bit about their offensive line, Dalvin Cook has not rushed for over 100 yards since Week 7 against Detroit. And now think how good Dalvin Cook is. Yeah. So what does that tell you? Their offensive line and their corners, their offensive line's not great. What's San Francisco's defensive line? Fantastic. I think this team has a ceiling. It's not just Kirk. It's Kirk under pressure, and I don't love the matchups here on out, their O-line against the defensive lines they'd face.
On a scale of 1 to 10, the Seattle Seahawks.
A 5. Listen, I know there are 11-2 in one-possession games. Folks, let me read this. They're missing Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, C.J. Prosise, Dwayne Brown, a defensive end, a guard. They're great in close games. They just don't have enough pieces to go on the road and win. I give them a 5.
All right, the Green Bay Packers, scale of 1 to 10.
I give them a 6. Don't love their offensive line. They probably beat Seattle close. They are a healthy football team. They've won 5 straight. But I'll just throw this out. In the middle of this winning streak, 5 straight, Aaron Rodgers is completing 57% of his throws with an 85 quarterback rating. We know he's got a running game. We know he's got Devontae Adams. What does that tell you? He's not getting a ton of time to throw here. Don't love Green Bay's O-line against the possible matchups they would face going forward, like the Niners' defensive line.
Okay, and on a scale of 1 to 10, speaking of the Niners, what is the Super Bowl-O-Meter for the San Francisco 49ers?
It's a 9. I will tell you this. They're going to get Quan Alexander back eventually if they win this weekend. I think their way to beat Baltimore eventually is Quan Alexander, who's a hyper-athletic linebacker they acquired from Tampa. I think they can beat you more ways than any other team in the league, including Baltimore. They can power run. They can beat you with their tight end, the Gronk-like guy, George Kittle. They can throw you over the top. I think they can beat you more ways than anybody. They have an elite coach. And Garoppolo this year, I know we don't want to give him love because he's too handsome, is completing 69% of his throws, 8.5 yards per pass, both near the top of the league. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.